Webinar. Thanks for joining me. My name is George Burne and I am a UAV strategist here at Copters. Thank you very much for joining me. I know it's a difficult time at the moment. A lot of people working from home, furloughed, whatever it may be. I really do appreciate you joining us, and I hope everyone's staying safe. I think today should be a pretty good webinar. Obviously, I've had conversations with people in the industry regarding this webinar because I wanted to get some really good facts down for you. Obviously, give you some really good content which you can obviously take away and use yourself. But I think the main sort of premise today is to make it as informative and sort of build some ideas as much as possible. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. I've got a couple of videos which I'm going to show, so bear with me. It's my first time doing the old webinar on Webinar Ninja, but hopefully it goes well, and we can have a pretty good webinar. So let's go to the first slide, and it obviously is all about industrial inspection with drone technology. So there is going to be a little bit on the external drones, a little bit on the internal drones, and a bit of a walkthrough on sort of workflow from start to finish, how to produce really good data for your clients. So essentially, and one of the big questions is why do we use drones? Drones are being used in a number of different industries, but essentially why? What are their benefits? A lot of people joining us today will be in a position where drones are already being used. They're already using drones, so they'll have a bit more of a clear idea. But when you are faced with obviously speaking to the end client or a customer, you've really got to sell yourself. You've got to sell your product. You've got to sell your application, basically. If just before we go any further, if anyone is not having any sound, I'd recommend just sticking a refresh, and you should be all good. But yeah, sound should be all right on my end anyway. But essentially, the main benefits is to improve safety, reduce downtime, and lower costs. These are the three big things. And as obviously I've been in the industry for nearly 4 years now, and it is a case of these are the big things that people look for: the safety of the workforce, the safety of their site, and the safety of machinery. That is the three big things when it comes to safety. And obviously, using drones is really helping it. It's taking away the human factor. It's actually reducing to pretty much zero risk for human life, especially with the confined space entry, rope access, getting onto buildings, all that sort of stuff. So it is a huge benefit having drones. And when you are faced with that conversation, that ideas building with a customer who's saying, well, what can you actually do? It's that safety aspect. You're not going to have any sort of problems actually selling that. That is one of the biggest things. Now moving on to downtime, and I know a lot of people come from the construction industry, from power industry. When it comes to industrial inspection, some companies, some sites only have days, maximum a week, to actually go on to site, do an inspection, and those every hour is lost profits for them. So if they can get a drone team in to do an initial inspection relatively quickly, that's a winner for them. So that's what people look for. That's the market out there. They're looking for cheaper, quicker alternatives to traditional methods, and especially with COVID and everything that's going on at the moment, there's going to be more and more of these opportunities coming about. And yeah, I think especially in the drone industry, COVID, it's obviously hit every industry quite hard. I think as time goes on and as the economy starts to get back on its feet, drones are really going to see the benefit, and the industry is just going to get propelled forward. And then obviously lowered costs, that obviously comes into play. Lower downtime equals lower costs, but also the reduction in scaffolding, rope access. And if anyone's from the scaffolding background and industrial inspection, they'll know just how expensive it can be. I had a conversation with a company a couple of weeks ago, and they said to do a single tank inspection, it was minimum of 10 grand. And that was to get up around the sides, up in the middle. And most of the time, they wouldn't even find any defects. They wouldn't find any problems, any damage that really needed fixing. They could sign it off, check it off, and away they go. And construction industry, if anybody is from that background, things never go to plan. Things are never on time, and that just goes to show that having a system which you can get on site, you can do the job and walk away from it relatively quickly is a massive benefit to any industry. Just a few of the industries that we obviously I work with. We've got a couple of colleagues of mine who do the surveying sides and the national security. Surveying is quite intertwined with inspection and obviously general drone use. But some of the industries that really benefit from drones at the moment: construction, power generation, oil and gas. We are seeing a big increase in mining, agricultural use, and public safety. But the oil and gas, power generation, construction, where days out of business is money, and obviously having a quick inspection technique like using drones is fantastic. So I know that this was one of the big sort of advertised sections that a lot of people were asking me about prior to the webinar, and this is the concept workflow. Now, this is basically a sort of a workflow of collecting the data and then giving it to the customer. Because at the end of the day, what you'll find is if you do get into the industry, if you do start doing jobs for people, the customer will ask for raw data or will ask for a report. Now, this is really easy to do because essentially you are just collecting that data. The drone itself is the vehicle, the camera is what's actually collecting the data. So when you are on site, it's as simple as capture the data, record the data, stick it into a report, and then pass it on to the customer. Now, what's going to really differentiate you from your competitor or from another company that's already doing that is that simplified collection of data. It's going to be giving the report to the customer. And what they want to see is something really easy, really straightforward. They can just tick off and say, brilliant, that's all we needed. Thank you very much. When can you come back? So the actual capturing of data, I will go into it a little bit, but that is relatively easy. And I know we've got, obviously, number 2 is upload data to Ava. You can use any sort of data capture software. We use Ava just because it's an easy place to store large amounts of data, and obviously photos, videos, whatever you are looking to do. And then you can obviously annotate them as well. But really, you can do that on any sort of on photo editing software, and then pass it on to the customer. But a lot of the time, you may find that you're on site, the customer's looking over your shoulder. You've given them a second screen so they can actually see what you're seeing, and then it is just a case of you actually going onto site and actually capturing it itself. I do have to stress that safety is the paramount of the thing when it comes to setting up a drone company. You want to be renowned for being safe. You want to obviously show that your customers that you are being safe as well. We teach this with the PSCO courses, and I promise I wouldn't go too salesy, but when it comes to setting up a business, you do have to make sure that you are following stuff by the book, because it's life or death for some things. If you're, I don't want to say taking the piss, but if you're breaking the rules, flying out of bounds, flying over, congested areas, it really can. You've got to look after yourself, look after the company, look after your drone as well. And when you're not doing that, things can start to go wrong. But make sure you've done a safe setup with your drone. Make sure it can fly. Make sure it's working correctly. Inform the relative authorities. If you're on site with the customer, having their permission is basically all you'll need. But that equipment check and a flight plan is essential. So if you're on site and you're looking to inspect a building, do a roof survey, it's all about that flight plan, mapping that out so you can have line of sight of the drone at all times. Make sure that the drone is in working condition. Make sure that the weather conditions are okay for the upcoming flight. Because the worst thing to happen would be if you're up in the sky, you've got it on a pre-planned flight, and then all of a sudden a storm rocks in, you've got to bring it down. So making sure that you are safe, making sure that the conditions, the environment is in a safe environment, and the collection of data. That's really sort of the main aspect. We talk about different drones having different benefits, and bringing out all these new DJI drones. But essentially, it's all about the camera. It's all about the actual system that collects the data. If you can get a decent data set from your inspection and give that to the customer, that could be on a scaffolding, that could be on a drone, that could be on a plane. They're none the wiser. You've given them the data that they required, and you've done it for half the price using a drone. So essentially, and I did speak to a couple of the water industry leading drone users at the moment, and what they usually do for an inspection, especially sort of a site inspection, is they will actually use a mapping software. Now I've put down there at the bottom Pix4D Capture. There are a number of different in inspection. There are. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. Thank you very much. There's a couple of different inspection and mapping softwares out there that you can use, where you basically draw the grid that you want to fly. So you're never flying out of bounds. You're always where you're supposed to be. And essentially, you take maybe 50 to 100 photos of the site. So you've got an aerial view. And then from there, you can do a free flight. And because you're taking these photos of the site, what you can actually achieve is, because every photo is digitally stamped with like a GPS coordinate and also an angle, you can actually tell where the photos are being taken from and which direction they're being taken from. So when it comes to creating your report, this is a really key aspect, actually. So when it comes to creating your report, it's really easy to do. And if I go to the next stage, you can then tell the customer where those photos are in relation to the map. So they're not saying, well, bloody hell, hang on, where's this photo taken? Where's this problem? You can go, well, this is captured here, looking at this direction. So in terms of on the building, this is where it will be. And you can give a GPS coordinate. You can give them, and usually when you're on site, the customer knows where it's going to be. But for the likes of unpredicted damage, you've got a hole in the roof and you're thinking, where is that? You've zoomed right in. You can then zoom it out, give a coordinate, and pass it on to the client, and get some really good data from it. So yeah, sorry for the software that I did show there. It was Pix4D Capture, but you can use the DJI software. I know there's a number of different softwares out there. I think Pix4D is maybe the largest and most innovative, so that's sort of why I've chosen that one. But essentially, these photos were done with the Helios 2, and I specifically put these in because you don't have a GPS coordinate with this. Now, this is the exception to the rule a lot of the time. So what you can do is you can actually have a flight path done with the Helios 2 and create sort of an in-flight motion of the drone, and then from there capture each of the photos. But essentially, for internal structures, it's a lot easier to find your way around, especially tanks like the one you've seen there. So that's Pix4D Capture. Now, Pix4D Mapper is what you create the point cloud data with, but the Pix4D Capture is the app that you'd get on your mobile or onto a tablet, and that is essentially what you would draw your map on. And that is a case of the drone will follow that. It will take all of the photos that you say, and it'll all be autonomous, and it will land where you took off. So it's got the return to home function. It'll take off and land at the same point. So you can basically sit back, make sure the drone's safe, make sure your environment's safe, and yeah, have a bit of peace of mind. So from there, obviously the annotations are really useful. I've done the internal side of it because that's obviously the background that I've come from, but this is a really sort of cross-working technique. Obviously annotate it, pass it on to the customer, and jobs are good. And especially with the Helios 2, when you've got the actual measurement tool, you can actually find out actually dimensions of cracks, deformities, whatever it may be, which is a really useful technique for a lot of inspection teams. They can go in and say, well, actually, that is the size that it does need fixing, or that needs an extra weld. Let's get the welding team in to come in and fix that. Now, bear with me on this because this is a video, and I have got an embedded video which I will show you now, and hopefully you can see this. Oh, and this should give you an idea of the inspection with a Z30, which is the M210. Now, bear with me. Okay, you should be able to see me now. Let's try and open that again. So this is a flight that I did with a customer. We did a bit of a proof of concept. It was enclosed in sort of a handover that we do with some of our customers. Hopefully you can see these videos. But this is the Z30. Now, essentially, what we did is we flew over the building, captured a lot of images that we could then pinch together, and then use the Z30 to zoom in on certain sections. And this window is, and yeah, just make sure that the video quality is good, because that'll give me a bit of peace of mind that we're doing something right. But essentially, they were finding leaks coming out of this window. And this Z30 was able to zoom in, and I think we were flying about 60 to 70 meters high at this point for safety reasons. To obviously, so what I could do is I could fly to a location and then just control the camera. And yeah, essentially, they were able to see that actually the window hadn't been installed properly. They'd found that the bottom part of the lining actually wasn't actually there. So I think they had a difficult conversation with some of their contractors following that I'd left. But moving on, that's a pretty good video. We've got a couple of really good ones, which I will keep sort of bringing up, because I think sharing this content, letting you know what is in the industry is really valuable. So essentially, just to give you a bit more on Ava and the data collection, that is essentially it. And I do have a couple of slides following, which will go into a bit more detail. But essentially, all those dots are collections of photos. And what that gives you is you can almost tell that there's been a flight path around there, and it will input the actual photos from Google Maps, or if you are using Pixel.d, you can import them onto the software. So it'll give you sort of an overview of the building that you are doing. And then from there, if you click on one of the single points, you can then see the direction of all the photos that were taken. And you can see that in the middle. And then all of the orange and yellow or even red dots is where there is a damage or a problem. And I think that when this was done, because this is a bit more of a demo sort of collection of photos, this was following a really bad storm in America. So they did have some quite bad damage. And I say that, I'll show you the next photo. You're probably going to say it's not much of a damage, but it is pretty bad. So this software is called Ava, and you can see that on our website. And if you'd like further information, I'd love to send that through to you. But essentially, it's just a way of collecting a lot of data and storing it online. And for the likes of people who don't have great internet, don't have great software capabilities, it's really easy to upload and store. So it's a cloud-based data collection software, basically. But you can edit, see in the middle, any of the information that you want to store. I think this was actually originally done with a Phantom 4. So still a good drone, still got a good camera. And then you can obviously, in the top right, you can create a report where it then shows you exactly where on the map it was, what angle it was facing, the actual problem, and then the report that you write. So damage, cracking roof, missing tiles, whatever it is going to be. And then it's got severity as well. So you've got 1 to 8, and then you choose how bad it is. 8 being needs fixing straight away, 1 being it's fine. And then so essentially the actual from start to finish collection of data to presenting it to the customer, it at the end of the day, it's a trial and process. Whatever's best for you, whatever works the easiest. I have a lot of customers who capture data and send video through to people because that's what they want. They send they send the photos, they send the video, and that's all the customer requires. They require the raw data. But some customers would prefer to have it in a report, so they can just submit it and go from there. So moving on, I've just commented in the chat what the software is, and you can find that on our website. So a bit of a case study. If you join me for the Helios 2 case study, sort of industrial inspection for internal tanks a couple of weeks ago, you may have seen sort of a version of this. But this was a customer of ours who used the Helios 2 for going into a building. A storage tank used for diesel oil storage tanks hadn't been inspected since 1962 when it was first built. Essentially, it was too expensive to send people in and rope access down or scaffold up. So they got a drone team in, and what they were looking for is whether there was any problems. They weren't aware of anything, but what they actually found, foreign objects, and they actually found that some of the bolts were loose, rotting away, and yeah, a lot of things which were going wrong, which they didn't know about. And I think what they were able to do is they were able to say, yeah, this needs to be assessed. But what they did is they did this on multiple different storage tanks, and saved the cost of them going into every single one. So the actual overall cost for the end customer was incredible compared to how much it would have been if they had just gone in to inspect inspect every single tank with a single confined space team. Instead, they sent a drone in. But to put it onto the external side of things, it's the same with roofs. You know, if you've got a full park of buildings that all need the roof inspecting, and you send a rope access team or a scaffolding team or a cherry picking team up to every single roof, that's very time consuming, very difficult to do. Whereas you've got a drone which can fly over, do a whole map of the site, and then you can collate that data back at the office, wherever you'd prefer, and give them a really good report. So just moving on from that, a couple of numbers which I think are really important. It was that reduction in confined space entry. I think they did put a person in to start with to assess that the drone could go up, but in terms of the higher levels or the actual confined spaces, that was a no-go for all of their team, which was really useful. And then obviously the safety side, which a lot of companies are concerned about, wasn't affected at all. Timescale, single mobilization within 8 hours. It's a case of getting a team up there, getting all the regs, everything like that, as opposed to getting a drone out and actually doing it on site. And yeah, it was that cost as well. Obviously, that the team benefited because they got paid, but the actual customer who owned the tanks didn't have to fork out an extreme amount of money to get a proper inspection done. And I've got a couple of them, but I am going to skip through because we are sort of going quite slowly. But essentially, the 4 big things: safety, speed, cost effective, and it is reliable. We've got, especially the Helios 2, which has got a 20 megapixel camera. You've got a really good camera which is going to capture a lot of data in a small amount of area. The likes of the Phantom 2 Pro, that's got a good camera, but then you look at sort of the Z30, and I will go on to the importance of cameras in a minute. But picking the right equipment, picking the right camera, that's going to be the most important thing for you. And obviously, it's a case of how you use it, how safely you are working within your industry. Structural survey as well, really important. You can obviously present it like this, present it to the customer, and I don't want to pause too much on this sort of thing, but it is that whole, what can you give the customer? That is what is going to be the real money earner for you. How do you present your data to them so that they can make it as easy and as streamlined as possible? Now, the importance of your camera. This is a big one, because a lot of people don't really think about the camera itself. They think about the drone. They think, oh, what's sexy looking, what's going to be the best drone to use. Oh, this one there, this one's black, this one's white. No one cares about that sort of thing when it comes to. And if you speak to any sort of drone pilot who has got some reasonable amount of experience, it's all about what sensor and what camera you can put on the drone. And this all ties in really nicely with safety. Now, to maintain a safe distance from a wind turbine, to maintain a safe distance from a building, if you're trying to inspect a building which is potentially in a congested area or close to somewhere you don't have permission, you want to keep a safe distance away. And there is a couple of different ways you can do this, and I will go into this a little bit. I am sort of teeing myself up, but essentially what you've got here is the Z30 for the M210. We will do a bit of a comparison to that, and I know a lot of people have been asking about the M300, the new DJI drone with the H20, which is the zoom camera. But the Z30 is sort of the traditional standard for the Matrice setup. So it's a tried and proven piece of kit. When it comes to megapixel as well, this is going to be really important for yourselves and inspection, because every single megapixel that you see is basically a point of interest. So you want to get as many of them as possible. So when you are looking for cracks, you are looking for deformities, or you are looking for something that's not supposed to be there, if you've got a larger megapixel camera, you're going to see more megapixels on that size. So when it goes to post-process, you've got more megapixels that make up that single crack. And I will go on to a bit of a diagram of how that looks. But essentially, if you've got a really high quality image, you will be able to see more and to get more accurate data for your customer. And a lot of it comes into, basic camera qualities as well. And if anyone was on the webinar this morning, Johnny may have gone over the sort of brightness, contrast, saturation, that sort of thing, to get sort of the best quality of image as well. And that all comes into it as well. So, it goes hand in hand with equipment and sort of your knowledge of how to collect that data. So essentially, this is a sort of a metallic structure, and what we're seeing there is the weld in between the two metal plates. So essentially, what you see there is the crack, and if you've got a really high megapixel camera, you're going to get more megapixels over that crack than you would with a lower resolution camera. And obviously, I do like to use the reference of a pixelated Game Boy or a Nintendo Cube or a video game, where you've got lots of little pixels, like Mario, so for instance, where you can't really tell what it is. You want to get as many detail as possible, because that could be really useful for your customer, and it's going to make you look a lot better when it comes down to to actually offering the information and the data. So having a larger megapixel camera or a larger sensor is going to go a lot further. Additionally, what you can do, and this is where the safety side of it comes in, you can fly closer to the objects, and that will give you more megapixels for that size, but you are having to fly a lot lower. Now, if you're doing a site survey or doing an inspection of a building, you want to fly at a decent height so you can do it quicker, so you can capture more ground, more data without having to fly lower, which obviously the safety aspect, if a huge gust of wind comes in or something goes wrong, you lose connection to the drone. You're not going to be caught out. You want to fly at a decent height, fly with line of sight, and having a camera which can do that is really going to be key. Now, this is more on the surveying side, and I did speak with Jim Pick today, and obviously we did go over this a couple of times on previous webinars. But essentially, the higher megapixel camera you get, the better resolution you are going to achieve. And that's just basics. So what they're saying is essentially you can fly at a higher height, higher altitude, and capture really good data with a 50 megapixel camera, but with a 12 megapixel, you're going to have, it's that trade-off. It's kind of classic trade-off. If you want to invest less, you are going to fly lower, and you may have to put more time into the actual inspection or the actual flight. But with a 50 meg, you are going to be able to fly a lot higher, which is very beneficial for a lot of companies. And that's where the phase one comes into play. I don't want to spend too much time talking about products, but I think it is important to show you what the top of the range sort of industrial inspection camera is, because essentially what this allows you to do is stay a very far distance away from a structure or an object and take a single snapshot of it. Because it's a mechanical shutter, it's not a rolling shutter, which will then equal blur, and because the camera is moving sometimes when you're in flight, you want it to be a single shot. From there, you can get 50 to 100 megapixel cameras with the phase one, and which is phenomenal. It's a crazy amount of megapixels. It is a really good camera, but it is proven to be brilliant, because what it allows you to do is, instead of on site, and this is where the difference between zoom and high megapixel cameras does come into play. With a zoom camera, you could stay the same distance away and zoom in, but then you've got to think about the stability. The camera could be wobbling. You've got to think about, you have to capture all of that data in a single flight. You've got to make sure that you have captured everything. Whereas with a larger megapixel camera, you can stay further away, capture a single image, and then in the post process, once you're back in front of the fire, behind your desk, looking at it on your computer, you can get the image up and zoom in. And you can actually use a zoom function, basically just using your cursor and zoom in and find the same amount of data, because you have got a high megapixel camera. Now, this goes into good detail. I won't bore you with the jargon of surveying and ground spatial distance and all that sort of thing, but the X5 was a traditional camera for the Inspire 1 a couple of years ago. Sony A7R, good camera, not debating that. But the phase one obviously has got a really good sensor, and if you look at that, this is what you can achieve by zooming in. Because the camera is further away, you don't have to risk flying at a closer area, but you can take a single image and capture that and still get some really good results. Now that's what you get with a larger megapixel camera. I do want to speak about zoom, because everybody's budgets aren't always 20, 30, 40,000 pounds. Sometimes you do want to start smaller, learn to walk before you can run, that sort of thing. And there's no problem with that. I think that's a really good idea, really good way of getting into the industry, especially if it's a diversification. You're a roofer, you are looking for something to fill the gap, basically something to actually fill the area that you need for a drone. But essentially, the M200s and the M300s have got a really good platform to do that. Now, the M200, and this is another video which I think will be beneficial for a lot of people doing inspection. This was myself. I actually flew this up down in Ipswich, and we were basically just testing the zoom capabilities on a very windy day, actually. Really sunny, down doing Innovate East, which is a show dedicated to innovative technologies in the water industry. But essentially, this is an M210 with a Z30 taking off. I went to a single point, and I was about 150 meters away from the target that I will zoom into. And I hope the camera quality or the video quality is good enough for you guys, because it really is something quite to behold. If you haven't seen the Z30, I know I did show it a little bit on the roof survey, but this is a really good image that you will see. So got into position, made sure that it was stable, made sure that the wind wasn't a problem. So hopefully everybody's seen that. If just want to stick a note into the comments, say you have, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, I think that's worked well. So we will move on, and I am seeing questions about the H20, which is the 20 times optical zoom. It does have digital zoom, which is phenomenal, and we will show some images of what they've been doing in the States, which is, it's mind-boggling what they're doing. But what the H20 obviously boasts is it has 20 megapixels as well, which is phenomenal compared to the Z30, which has got 4 megapixels off the top of my head. So for the same image you're getting a lot more detail with the H20. And for the price it's a bit of a joke, to be honest. I thought it'd be a lot more expensive professionally, I thought it'd be a lot more expensive when it did come out. This is the Helios 2. This was actually done in a very well-known clothing department store storage unit, and this was one of the motors. Flew up, and using the camera, I wasn't able to get as close as I'd like to, but on post-process, because I had that 20 megapixel camera, I was able to zoom in on the original photo and see all of the bolts that I needed to see, make sure that none had come loose, make sure that there wasn't too much wear and tear, which is what I obviously was looking for. Now, I don't want to say too much on the Helios 2, but obviously with inspection, you do have internal inspection, which is one of the biggest asks in the industry at the moment. And I will show you this video. It is a really good idea. I won't show you it all because it is quite long, but it is a good idea at obviously what you're going to see, what you're going to basically achieve. Let me have a look. There we go. So if you can see that now, this is taking off from outside and it's going into a culvert. So this is actually a waterway, and I think it was an out of use one. It dried up, or the actual building that it was using it had run down, and it had just been basically condemned. So essentially, this is just another inspection technique for areas you can't get close to, you can't get access to, and I'll let this run for a little bit longer because it is fascinating, and it is a really good use of technology, and you get some really good images. Having a 20 megapixel camera is just phenomenal. Is everybody's connection okay? I'm seeing a couple of people saying it's good, a couple of people saying it's poor. Don't know whether it's necessarily our end or. So I'll just let this run for a little bit longer. And what I will show you now, and I'll take it off now. Let me just do that. So yeah, you got my mug back. Excellent. I will show you what that video was able to achieve. So I'll try and start it again, but essentially, because you've got the video captured from the Helios 2, you're able, and hopefully you can see this. Let me know if you can't. But this is the Helios 2 flying through a culvert, and it's using the imagery taken from the video with photogrammetry to actually map that out. So what that allows you to do is have a representation of the better representation of the area you are flying down, and you can pass it on to your customers, and you can actually use VR to walk through it. But obviously put the VR headset on and go from there. So it's a really good system. And yeah, I wanted to touch base on the 300 because it is new, it is exciting. A lot of people are asking questions. We've seen some really fantastic imagery that we've taken, that the US have taken, that DJI have collected. But really, it's a good bit of kit, and I think especially the inspection industry, I think it's really going to take it to the next level. But essentially, I do want to show you this video, and hopefully the sound quality is good enough. But it's actually a comparison of the Z30, which is on the left, and the H20T, but it's only using the zoom factor, so it's the H20 essentially on the right. So let's just make sure. So that works. I think there is a bit of sound.
So pull back out to
the data quality is good enough. But essentially, this is more for a search and rescue application that they're looking to do, looking at license plates, that sort of thing. But what you'll find, you'll be using it for is zooming in onto a single point of interest to identify the quality of surface or any sort of restoration needs. But as you can see, stability on the right of the video on the right hand screen is phenomenal.
What's interesting too is this one looks a little clearer on the left, and I wonder if it's just because it's the monitor. You know what I mean? I don't know.
There's the mini.
See the mini on the screen.
Interesting.
There's a trash around.
So you can also see how it's also it hasn't drifted at all.
No, yours is drifted.
To where that Z30, and we're still fighting the same amount of wind.
Yeah, so if anyone didn't hear that, they're actually fighting wind at the moment. But what they're finding is the Z30 is a little bit more unstable. It's still got really good footage, but the H20 is coping a lot better in the windy conditions. So essentially what that would mean for anybody looking to use it in an industrial inspection environment is you would be able to get to a location and obviously use the camera how you need it. Yeah, just to confirm, we will be sending the video through as a link. So yeah, if anybody has got a run, it'd be sad to see you go, but yeah, obviously duty calls. But yeah, so in terms of the inspection industry, the zoom capability with a 20 megapixel camera is phenomenal. And I think you can pick one of those up for about $2.5 now. There is a bit of a deal at the end. It wouldn't be a webinar without having a deal at the end. So I will show you that. But in terms of the M210, sorry, the M300 RTK, what you are actually seeing is 15 kilometers of max transmission. Obviously in the UK, you can only fly 500 meters away. But with the 15 kilometers of max transmission, that gives you higher strength of signal. So if you're flying near big metallic objects or big metallic structures, you have got a bit of peace of mind that you're going to have the connection from the screen to the actual drone, the camera to the screen. You're still going to have that intact. You're still going to have a connection between flying the drone. So it's not going to fly off, and you're not going to have any problems in terms of the safety side. And that's a key thing. At the end of the day, the drone is the vehicle. It's all about the camera. That you want to have a drone which can maintain its worth, basically. Make sure that the camera can do its job and stay in the air for as long as it needs. And having that 55 minutes of flight time, less downtime, more time in the air, more time doing your inspection, happy days. You can't complain with something like that. That is, I mean, 55 minutes in terms of the drone industry is sort of unheard of until the M300s. I mean, depending on weather conditions, I'm still yet to see it do 50 minutes, but 45, 50 minutes, phenomenal. That is brilliant. Directional sensing as well. It's a bit like your car. You've got your parking sensors. It will see that for a good 20 meters, which is just insane. IP rating. I would never say fly in the rain. I'd never say take off in the rain. Never say go into a storm. But if you ever are caught out, you ever are in a situation where you're on your last flight and it is looking like it's getting bad, you do have peace of mind that you can get it back down, land it, be safe, and get that data. And that goes for anybody flying. If you are ever in a windy or wet condition, don't take any risks. Bring it down. Make sure that your team, the drone, and the site safety is paramount. Operating temperatures, can't imagine temperatures will get too bad in the UK, especially the heat anyway, maybe in the US, maybe in Saudi, but what we're seeing at the moment is the last couple of weeks actually, it's been a pretty good weather, but you're still going to be all right flying it. It's got self-heating batteries as well, which is just brilliant. and obviously the hot swap batteries. So moving on, I don't want to bore you too much, but what I was really excited about, especially from the inspection side of drone use, is the AI spot checks. Now, for people who haven't heard about this or haven't seen this, what that'll do is it will record the drone's flight to a certain point, and whatever you are zooming in on, whatever you're looking at, the actual drone will remember that. So it will go to a single GPS location, and whatever it's looking at, it will remember that and record that flight. So 6 months from now, if your customer says, no, I need you to come do it every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, it's a site survey, it's a, change over time, we need to be doing regular servicing. You go to a single point, and all you have to do is press go, and it will remember that flight, and it will zoom in on that specific location. Brilliant technology. I think it's going to be really revolutionary. It's taking drones a little bit more autonomous, obviously for the safety aspects, safety side of things. But I think it's going to be really good moving forwards. Obviously, live mission recording, great stuff, and obviously Waypoint 2.0. There is a really good video of the camera, which it captures lots of images and sticks them all together to create a really high resolution image. Check that out. It is on our website somewhere. I will put it in the chat at some point. But it gives you a really good image. I could go on all day talking about the 300, so I'm not going to do too much, but just to reiterate what it is: 55-minute flight time, max speed, wind resistance, which is a big one, especially in the inspection industry, offshore oil and gas, industrial stuff. That's really, really useful. Yeah, we're really excited about it. But thank you very much for joining us. I am coming up to sort of a question and answer time. I have got some good questions going through here. But before I do, it wouldn't be a Copters webinar without having a bit of a deal, bit of a webinar offer. Let us know if you are interested in the 300s. As an inspection expert, or self-proclaimed, as much as anybody is, I would definitely recommend the H20 for a visual inspection. If the thermal isn't of a requirement to yourself, the H20, with the laser rangefinder, is a really good tool, and it's not too expensive. That with obviously the 300, it's a brilliant little package, really good to get into, and that comes with the PFCO training, and we will be doing a bit of a handover as well. So if you do look to get one of those and stick a deposit down, I'll come down and meet you, and we'll run through the equipment and do a bit of a flight as well. Yeah, I mean, if that's sort of price, and I'm more than happy to talk through different drones with other people, if the 300 isn't what you're looking at, because essentially for the smaller jobs, you've got the Mavic 2 Pro, the Mavic Dual Enterprise, which is the thermal element of the drone, but then you've also got the M210 with the X7. Now, if I'm going to be brutally honest, I think the M210 is a great drone. It's fantastic, but the 300, especially with the reports the DJI bringing out a surveying camera, I think that's really going to be a real game changer. But then you look at the Parrot and Naffis, it's got some really great drones, and we actually do packages on all of these drones with the training. So I'd love to talk through them. To reiterate on the Ava software as well, Ava is a great bit of kit. We are going to be sending out some information packlets on that. But in general, if you've got any questions about inspection with drones, more of a consultation, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you about that. If you've got an idea, I'd love to discuss that. It's what's really great about the industry is drones are the vehicle. They open so many doors for people, and it's sometimes you need that idea bouncing off people to build those ideas. And Copters, we have been in the industry sort of relatively short amount of time, sort of 4 or 5 years, but what we've done is we've recruited right. We've got surveyors, emergency services experts, and technical experts that know what they're doing, know what they're talking about. So if it's not going to be myself, it'll be one of my colleagues, and we'd love to have that conversation with you. Just on just some of the questions that I have got. I will try and answer as many as I can. There are quite a few. It's good to see some familiar names down here. So I'm sure I'll be catching up with you in the near future. In terms of pricing, we lease pricing, yes. So in terms of leasing, we do a finance lease, so an operating or purchase finance lease. So rental is out of the question, but for the Helios 2 specifically, we do a finance, and actually any equipment or training we do, either personal or business finance. Really good rates, really good people that we work with a company quite close to our office, actually called Kingston Capital. So that they're really clued up on getting you the best deal basically in terms of pricing, and that can be over 3 to 4 years. So in terms of depreciation, that sort of thing, when it comes to the end of that, you can still loan the equipment, but haven't paid small amounts over time. Yes, the Mavic 2 Pro, is it a good inspection drone? To be honest, if I'm going to be deadly honest with you, it's a great drone, great intro level drone. I probably wouldn't advise using it on any sort of industrial work sites. I think it does have its plus points. It's got a really good camera, but you just do have to be safe. I have had a couple of customers come back to me and said, look, where we didn't get laughed off site, but we did get a couple of comments made just on the size, and sometimes size matters, but don't tell the missus that. On the 300s, they are coming in stock next week. That's another question. Hope that helps. H20s and H20Ts as well. So they should be very quick. On the on charges for inspection services, so how much you would charge for an inspection, it really depends. It really depends on scenario, on customer, and what you can get away with. But essentially, a site survey, anywhere between sort of 500 quid to £2,000 for a basic one, depending on equipment. And that sort of comes from the photography industry. I mean, the drone industry was sort of founded on photography, because that's one of the biggest markets for drones. And what you'd find in the photography industry is whoever had the best cameras, whoever had the best technology, got the best jobs. You know, you produce the best material, and you do see that with drones as well. You see the Helios 2 will win a battle over a Mavic 2 in a cage every day of the week, because it's got the best equipment, it's the safest, and it's less risk. Whereas you know, you've got your phase ones. If companies said, oh, we'll do it the same price phase, of course they're going to win. But it's finding that price point, it's finding that market, which is really useful. And if it is starting off with a Mavic Enterprise or a Mavic Pro, get your PFTO, join Johnny on his photography course, because that will give you a great idea about how to use the camera best. Yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. Yeah, so that was Pix4D Capture that we used at the start. Let me see if I can. To be honest, it's gone now. But Pix4D Capture is essentially you plug your phone into your controller or your tablet. You draw out exactly where you want it to fly, and set it to what altitude you want it at. So obviously flying at safe altitude, making sure that you obeyed by the regulations. To take off, it'll do that flight. As it's flying along the route that you've planned, it will take photos at each section. You can set that to how many photos you'd like, but once it's done that mission, it'll fly back to site. If it runs out of battery or something happens, the wind speeds get too high, you can actually pull it home as well. So in terms of the safety side of things, it's fully autonomous. It's never going to fall out of the sky. Yeah, it's not 6-7 years ago where drones were a bit less reliable. So we're in a bit of a good position now. But yeah, no, I think I am getting a message to pull it there. So just with time, because we are coming up to an hour. But no, I really do appreciate everybody joining. If you could, if you are interested in anything, interested in continuing the conversation, shoot me a call, shoot me an email. And I'd love to discuss it in further detail with you. And that goes for inspection, that goes for survey. If you've got survey requirements, I'll pass you on to one of my colleagues, and hopefully we can we can go from there. But it's I think it's been good. We will be doing more webinars on inspection, specifically around maybe the 300 or the Elios, or even just it really depends. If you guys would prefer to have a course or a webinar that is all around capturing data and how to process it through Ava, I'd happily go through that with you guys. It's really on what you fancy, but hopefully that's been informative. Yeah, thank you very much, and yeah, speak to you soon. My contact details are there. I will leave that on. But yeah, have a great day, have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.